on to video 2 now. Now I'm going to be doing a book review in this video on this book here, A Certain Je ne sais quoi. This is a book I bought in Arundel a couple of months ago, and I know one of you said you would like me to do a book review once I finish reading it, which I have. I enjoyed this book a lot. As I say, it's really a kind of a sort of dictionary in a way of books that we borrow from other languages. So it's in alphabetical order. You've got the word, and then you've got the definition and explanation of what it means. So what I did was I wrote down the words that I found most interesting or I liked the best, and I thought I would just sort of read them out to you, I guess. And I'm going to pronounce the words correctly because the thing with me is that because I read a lot, so I've got a really wide vocabulary anyway, and many of these words I already sort of knew the meaning for. Some of them I didn't know the meaning or I'd forgotten the meaning for, and that was helpful as well to sort of remind myself of the meaning. Quite a few already knew the meaning, but it's quite good to kind of cement that knowledge. But the thing is, because I read more than I listen, and I don't tend to spend too much time with other people, and reading is the main way I get information, it's quite common for me to mispronounce words, and then I'm kind of like, yeah, it's annoying. Because I sometimes pronounce words like phonetically, I guess. Phonetically? Yeah, and I get it. I mispronounce them. So I did check how you're supposed to pronounce it. The internet is full of... Cambridge Dictionary is good. It shows you how to pronounce it in both the UK pronunciation and the American pronunciation as well, because sometimes they're a bit different. Sometimes I might actually pronounce them more like the American way. So, so I checked how you pronounce it in the British way as well. Sometimes, of course, it doesn't really matter too much how you pronounce it. You know, there's often no strictly correct way of pronouncing it in some cases. In some cases, there's more than one way of pronouncing a particular phrase. But anyway, I did try and find the most correct one, so I'm going to go with that. My pronunciation might be more British, though, so if you're American, you might pronounce it a bit differently. Right, so here goes. So first one, à la mode. Now, à la mode, of course, it's a French phrase, but it literally means, you know, sort of in fashion. But there is another meaning. Now, I knew the in fashion meaning, but I didn't realise there was another meaning. The other meaning actually means with ice cream, believe it or not. So anything that's served with ice cream is à la mode. So, I don't know, like peaches à la mode, like peaches with ice cream. Which is quite interesting. Different meaning there. I think that different meaning is more American. I'd have to do some more research because I don't know too much about it, but that is another meaning for à la mode. Another one I liked is ars longa vita brevis. This is a Latin phrase, and it means the art is long, life is short. And it actually comes from Hippocrates. The art is long, life is short. And what it means is, don't be hard on yourself if you make mistakes. The vita brevis bit refers to the fact that life is short. So, it's sort of encouraging you to experiment, to seize fleeting opportunities. It's difficult to make judgments. Because, you know, we're alive for such a short period of time, and it takes us a long time to perfect things. You know, a lot of trial and error. You know, ars longa, so the art is long. You know, you don't learn something overnight. Our life is short. You know, vita brevis. We just don't have enough time necessarily to become really, really godlike at something. So it's kind of in a way being humble and just appreciating that. It's hard to form judgments, you know. So that's quite a good one. The next one, bête noire. Bête noire. Bête noire is French, and it literally means black beast, which is the thing or person you hate the most. My bête noire, one of my bête noires, is of course unpredictable noise and too much stimulation. That's one of my major bête noires. Can't stand it. Bête noire, that's a good phrase to impress people with. Next one, C'est la vie, of course. That's a very common phrase. I'm sure most of you will be familiar with. That's life. Like basically, like shit happens. It's just a more kind of literary way of saying shit happens. So c'est la vie. That's of course French. The other one I like is chutzpah. Chutzpah. Now that's a Yiddish word meaning audacity. It actually comes from a Hebrew chutzpah, sort of meaning insolence, but it can convey a quality worthy of admiration, sort of like daring effrontery. So sort of someone acting with a lot of courage and yeah. So that's chutzpah, you know. I like that. Another one, make sure I pronounce this one correctly. Yes, cognoscenti. Now, cognoscenti is Italian word for those who are in the know, cognoscenti. It comes from the Latin to know, and it's often an appellation that is given to people who are experts in the field of art, literature, fashion, and those in the know on any subject. So I reckon I'm a bit of a cognoscenti when it comes to cooking and food. Next one. Cordon bleu. Now, cordon bleu is a French word, and it means, it's taken on a meaning of, it describes top quality cooking, but it has a very interesting origin, because it actually means blue ribbon. That's what cordon bleu actually means. It means blue ribbon. And the blue ribbon was awarded by the 16th century Bourbon kings to the knights of the highest order. And the term was then used in English in 1720s for noblemen. Like blue blood. That's the same sort of thing, really. And then later on it took on a meaning for top quality cooking. So it took on another meaning, cordon bleu. Next one. De trop. That's French for in excess, de trop. Over the top, too much. And it's also used for when a person's presence isn't welcome or not wanted. You know, it's felt de trop. It's too much, in excess. Demi-monde. Demi-monde is French for half-world. This was used to describe mistresses in the 19th century, but it's like on the fringes of 18th century society. I mean, that would refer to courtesans. But later on, it was used to describe those on the edges of respectable societies. A whole range of people would be described as demi-monde. Those who just are on the outside of society. I mean, I guess we could say autistics. We're kind of like demi-monde. We're on the fringes of society, really, in many ways. That's quite interesting, that one. Derrière. Now, I do like this one. It's a French word for behind. The backside, bum, euphemism. I just find that word funny. Derrière. If you want to be really kind of like, you know, I don't know, euphemistic, you don't want to refer to the bum, you could say derrière. People are like, what are you going on about? Maybe. Next one. Dishabille. In a state of dishabille. That means undressed or only partly clothed. In a state of, I think you actually pronounce it, just make sure I do pronounce it correctly. That's it, dishabille. That's it. It's pronounced dishabille. Dishabille. In a state of dishabille, undressed or only partly clothed. That's French. Next one, dolce vita, is sweet life. Most of us are familiar with that word because, you know, it's life of luxury, but the 1960 film, which I can't actually remember if I've seen. Maybe I'm sure I've seen many films because I was raised on films. So I have seen a lot of films, so it's possible I have seen it, I just can't quite remember. But anyway, there was a famous 1960 film, Federico Fellini, Dolce Vita, and that's what popularised that. As the film documents the opulence of Rome. It's really like another way of saying, this is the life, you know, Dolce Vita. This is the life. It's like sweet life. Next one. Double entendre. That means double understanding from French. I love that. Actually one of my favourite French phrases. Is a phrase that has an innocent first meaning. It refers to a phrase as an innocent first meaning and a saucy secondary meaning. So this is an example. The cashier handed me a carrier bag and I asked him if he had a big one. Yeah. That would be a double entendre. It's got a double meaning there. And the second meaning is going to be rather rude. And I do find them quite funny. Because my dad's an English teacher, he also introduced me to a lot of double entendre when I was growing up, which I think helped me as well, because particularly because of my Asperger's, I do find it hard to understand different interpretations. But once I do understand the different interpretations, I have a sense of humour, and I do find it very, very funny. And I think it helped the fact my dad's an English teacher, because he has exposed me to quite a lot of double entendre, and I've developed a sense of humour along those lines once I understand it, and I do think it's quite funny. Next one. Enfant terrible. Terrible child. It's quite self-explanatory, really. It can, of course, be applied to children who humiliate their parents. I mean, I was a bit of an enfant terrible when I was a child. I often humiliated my parents in one ways and one. But it also has another meaning. It can describe any radical, unorthodox adult, mostly in the art world. He's rather eccentric. Next one. Ennui. Of course, meaning boredom. Most of us are aware of that word. It's quite a common word. Ennui, that's French. And there are related words. For example, I love this one. Weltschmerz, which means world weariness. That's good German. Weltschmerz. Another one. Ersatz, which of course means that's German for substitute or often inferior product, a sort of imitation product. Ersatz. So, like, you know, I don't know, it could be anything. That's not like the original, like ersatz leather or something like that. That's not the original, it's just a fake. Next, and then of course we've got, let's just find some more. Yeah, Weltschmerz, going back to that one, sorry. Weltschmerz actually means world pain. It's the German version of ennui, as I said. World weariness felt from a perceived mismatch between the ideal image of how the world should be with how it really is. And Weltschmerz is more of a sort of an emotional response and yearning. It foregrounds yearning, so it's a little bit different to ennui. It's a sense of grief at how the world keeps falling short of expectations. The 19th century romantics coined it in Germany, seeing that things could and should be better. So it's a bit more active than a more passive ennui. I think I experience quite a lot of Weltschmerz because the world constantly thwarts my expectations, and I do have very high standards. Do any of you experience Weltschmerz? Let me know. Next one. This is Japanese now. Mono no awari. Mono no awari refers to mono no awari, or mono no aware, I think that's how you pronounce it. Mono no aware. Yeah, it's mono no aware. That's Japanese for the pathos of things. It's a Japanese term for the awareness of the impermanence of things. I think I experience that a lot as well, mono no aware. A related word is the Portuguese saudade, which is a deep state of nostalgic get my words muddled. Saudade is a Portuguese word for a deep state of nostalgic longing for an absent something or someone that one loves. It literally means the love that remains. It refers to a sense of absence and a mingling of sad and happy feelings, a constant feeling of absence, a longing for completeness or wholeness. I experience that a lot. I experience a lot of saudade. Do any of you? Then there's the German word. These are all related, these words. These particular words weren't actually in this book. They were a result of some research I did, and they all, when I was looking at related words to ennui, and I came up with these. There's another German word that I like. Sehnsucht, which is a German word for longing and thoughts about imperfection. So yeah, there's some interesting words there. I do like the word Sehnsucht. Let's see. Yeah, another one I like, and we go back to the book now. Hasta la vista. Hasta la vista. That's of course Spanish for see you later. So it doesn't say see you later. Hasta la vista. Sounds so much more poetic. Haute cuisine, as most of us are aware of, obviously that's a very popular one. I just like haute cuisine. It's just like a way. Yeah, I just like that word for top quality cooking. Incognito. That's obviously an Italian word for in disguise. It's when our identity is concealed. It comes from the Latin incognitus for unknown. I hope that when I wear this hat, for example, with its wide brim, that I can go incognito around the neighbourhood and avoid eye contact. Maybe a pair of sunglasses would be good as well. But yes, many celebrities try and go incognito. That's why they often wear these really big sunglasses, you know, to disguise themselves from the paparazzi in particular. Incommunicado means cut off from communication. It's a Spanish word. It refers to avoiding communication to protect privacy. I intend to be incommunicado for a full 2 weeks. Ipso facto is a Latin phrase, which is a good one, I think. It refers to very fact. My words keep on getting confused. Sorry. Yeah, ipso facto, Latin. It means that the very fact that something exists means that something else is true. It literally means by that very fact. The very fact that something exists means that something else is true. Ipso facto. I can't actually think for the life of me of an example right now. If you know any examples of ipso facto or can think of any, do put them in the comment box below. They will come, but if I sat here thinking, because it can take me a little while to think things, so I will use up video time. It's a good one, and I do want to use that more in my conversation because it does sound quite good. I like it. Je ne sais quoi, the name of the book, means a quality that cannot be described or named easily. I know not what, a certain je ne sais quoi, for example, a woman's mystifying beauty. It's a certain something that makes a food so tasty. That's another example of that phrase. It's another way of saying it X or the wow factor, but it just sounds a bit more literary. Je ne sais quoi. Joie de vivre, joy of living. Joie de vivre. Mañana. That's a Spanish word, mañana, for an unspecified time for next day. A vagueness or reluctance to commit to a deadline would be a mañana attitude. So if you never get anything done, if you're constantly procrastinating, you might be said to have a mañana attitude, okay? Next one, maven, meaning expert, Yiddish, gathers information and passes it on to others. So maybe I'm a bit of a maven in terms of my food knowledge. Mazel tov. Mazel tov is a Yiddish word for good fortune or congratulations, often said at weddings and other celebrations. Instead of saying congratulations, you say mazel tov. Mea culpa is Latin for my fault, and it comes from the Catholic prayer for Mass called I confess. It's a mission of guilt for a mistake. It's a mea culpa. Latin now, nil desperadum, nothing to be despaired at. It's not the end of the world, nil desperadum. Latin, another Latin one. A non sequitur, meaning it does not follow. A statement or response that seems utterly meaningless in context of whatever preceded it. It may also be used in an argument when someone wants to outwit opponent by confusing them with nonsense. And comedians also use non sequiturs as well for comedic effect. Nous, meaning mind or intellect, is a Greek word, but in modern English this can be, or nous, I think it's nous actually. Yeah, it is, no, it's nous. Yeah, it's nous, that's how you pronounce it. It rhymes with house. Nous. It means the mind, intellect, Greek, of course. That's the philosophical meaning, and not many people are aware of the philosophical meaning. Are more aware of, in modern English, can be used simply to mean common sense. You know, which is, I don't think that word's used that often. I mean, I know what it means, but it's not used that often, you know, you don't often hear it these days. The next one, pariah, meaning untouchable. Now, this has an interesting derivation, because we don't often think about where words come from, because we've taken so much for granted. You know, like social outcast, you know, obviously referring to the caste system. I mean, it's so obvious, you know, when you think about it. It refers to a caste system, you know, the Indian caste system, of course. Yeah, I mean, the original pariahs were actually a Tamil tribe of drummers named after the Pari drum. And when the Indian caste system was introduced, they were segregated from the